see me?
You don't have to do it long.
Katrina, we're back to
Okay.
Have you ever asked yourself, should juveniles be charged as adults? Juvenile Law Center and Araya Nellam statistics show that an estimated 250,000 youth are tried, sentenced, or incarcerated as adults every year across the United States. Whether or not to go to trial and to trial a juvenile as an adult is a controversial topic in the United States. Should the nature of the crime have a ground and determine whether you should trial a juvenile as an adult? We all have our opinions on sentences of juveniles, but I would like to enlighten you on the differences between the juveniles and adult mental judgment, the effect of adult prisons on children, and life after adult prison. According to research by Dr. Paul Thompson, judgment is the last part of the brain to develop. At age 6, the brain is almost 95% the size of an adult brain. But that doesn't mean that it's fully developed. The gray matter of the brain thickens as you age, and as your brain develops, it starts diminishing. Thompson, through an MRI of 13 healthy juveniles, showed the area of the brain that controls the executive functions, including weighing long-term consequences and controlling impulses, is that last to fully mature. I have a picture of the brain scan right here, and it shows from the front to the back of a brain from a 5-year-old, a preteen, a teen brain, and a 20-year-old. The front here shows a lot of the gray matter, which is in red and yellow, and the same in preteen. When you get to the teen brain, you start noticing that it started diminishing. Remember now that this is the teen brain. It's almost at the age of 20 years old that all the gray matter has disappeared. So that means that the teens here, they're still growing. These are your juveniles. These are the ones who were sentenced to the adult prisons. If a juvenile brain is not fully developed, how is it lawfully right to charge a juvenile as an adult? Adam Orts, the policy fellow with the American Bar Association's for Juvenile Justice Centers, stated, because the brains of juveniles, particularly the frontal lobe, are not fully developed, youth lack the ability to perform critical adult functions. Orts explained, the society puts restrictions on voting rights. They can't buy alcohol. They can't buy tobacco. They can't get legally married after consider their parents until they reach the age 18. So why trial them as adults when they're under 18? These are still juveniles. You cannot even go into the armed forces until you reach the age of 18. You're considered a minor. Why take away adult privileges, but when a crime is committed, you trial them as an adult? Now that we know that juvenile minds are not developed as adults, that can cause problems with judgment. What happens to them once they're incarcerated with adult criminals? Juveniles, they face greater risk of being molested, raped, they have a sexual identity crisis, they have thoughts of suicide, and even some people commit homicide towards these young adults. Juveniles face greater risk. These actions can cause long-term issues in the juvenile offender's life. The sexual abuse could cause emotional and psychological disturbances in adulthood. Depression, substance abuse, and some become sexual offenders themselves when becoming released. Remember, they're juveniles. Minds are not fully developed. So lock them down with adult criminals. What do you think is going to happen? They lock down with murderers, they lock down with rapists, and etc. What type of influences do these people have on those juvenile lives? Their environment can mold them to be just like the adult cellmates they're sharing with. The Florida Department of Juvenile Justice prison showed that juveniles are tried, convicted as adults are 32% more likely to commit another crime in the future. than the juvenile that was tried and jurisdiction delinquent for similar crimes in the juvenile justice system. If a juvenile was sentenced to a juvenile court and to the juvenile facility, they would have the access to educational needs and positive role models around them that could probably lead them and give them structure to become a help to society. The sentencing of juvenile court system is usually not as harsh. The juvenile courts take under consideration the offender's age, their mental development, and their ability to rehabilitate to join society again. The Center for Disease and Control Prevention stated that kept in juvenile centers, people that are kept in juvenile centers are less likely to reoffend. In closing, I hope each of you understand why juveniles should not be tried as adults, regardless of their crimes. Think about the development of their minds, the impact adult prisons could have on them, and how would their life be after prison. Reflect back on your juvenile years. Did you ever do something as a child that was wrong and couldn't control the impulse to do it? Or you really just never understood that it was wrong because you lacked knowledge? Now while reflecting, think, what would you have done different now that you are an adult? It's not the length of the sentence that is alarming, but the environment that they have to serve the time in. Eric J. Fish and Tori J.C. and Craig Hemmings did a test study showing that adult courts did receive a longer sentence, but only 27% of that time was actually served. And the only time they served more than 27% was when they was convicted of rape. Fitch, Cat, and Hemmings said that it was sometimes shorter stays than in a juvenile center. It may have been a shorter stay, but what did they go through when they was in an adult prison? Let's not just throw our juveniles away and forget that a child grows daily, but put them in an environment that will have a positive impact on their lives. Our youth are our future. Thank you.